I'm Brent Johnson, and today I'm at Welkinweir. This is a former residence that has been turned into an event space in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And with me is Sean O'Donnell, the organ builder and technician who made this organ play and speak here. So tell me what we're sitting in front of here.
We call this an organ, but what Mr. Skinner was after when he built this instrument was a player orchestra.
Okay.
So it's Opus 742 of the E.M. Skinner Company, 1926, originally built for an apartment on Park Avenue, if you can imagine.
In New York City.
In New York City. The building is still there. I don't know if the apartment's still there. I would kill for pictures of the apartment. In the late 1930s, Grace and Everett Rodabaugh built their retirement dream country house, added a substantial wing to the building, and it was intended to house a pipe organ. They negotiated to buy this instrument, and so in the summer of 1941, it was moved from Park Avenue to Pottstown.
So a residence organ built for another residence installed in this one.
Yes.
Okay. Well, first, how many ranks of pipes do we have?
It's 17 ranks.
17 ranks.
Plus harps, chimes, and xylophone, because, of course,
Orchestral stuff you need.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it's all installed in the upper floors of the house.
Yes, it's up in the attic,
Okay.
and it speaks down through a grill into the front foyer.
Okay.
And of course, you can hear it throughout the house.
All right. Well, we'll go up there and explore all of that, but I want to hear some of the sounds of this orchestra here that Mr. Skinner's provided us.
Yes.
And you have some samples here. Now, tell me a little bit about the system, the player mechanism and system that are on this organ.
The organ originally played from paper rolls, like a player piano. After 100 years, actually after about 60 years, the paper was getting very delicate. So Nelson Barden and I and a number of other people started a project to transfer the rolls from paper onto what at the time was a very rudimentary computer record playback system. And the good rolls were fine, but slightly damaged ones, well, if only there was a way. And so we ended up developing this on-screen editor system.
So this is your system for
this is our system.
playing the organ. So it can play from rolls still, though.
It can play from rolls still. We can, and we do. It can play from the computer. The computer can record live performances. It can record the roll performances, and then we can edit it, fix. We normally record the rolls at about 1/4 the normal speed, and then speed it up in the computer. It saves wear and tear on the paper.
Okay, makes sense. And so all of the original player mechanism is functioning.
Yes,
still.
and even when we use the computer is playing the machine which plays the organ. So the machine upstairs thinks it's still connected to the paper roll.
So this is just a console
Yeah.
edition. It's not actually changing the
Right.
rhythm. That's amazing.
We do also have the option, if the machine starts getting cranky, we can bypass the machine and play the organ directly.
Okay.
Because particularly when we first did this, we didn't want to be married to the machinery to save the music. And the purpose of the project was to save the music as much as to save the instrument and the machinery behind it.
Well, we'll hear a lot of the music and see how all of that works. I'm excited to see. But I want to talk about there is a console here in case somebody does actually want to play.
Yes.
As you were pointing out, the keys are in pristine condition.
Yeah, the keyboards are unrestored. They're just clean.
Because nobody really ever played the keys.
And that's been true of every player organ I've ever restored. The keyboards are in absolutely mint condition. In modern times, it is played live much more often because of the nature of the events that are held here. Live music is much more reflective of the event and more interactive with the event, so we try to get live musicians in here to play.
Well, let's talk about the sounds we've got. Now, it's an interesting layout on the console. We have a grate and a swell and a pedal, but we have all the same stops in the swell and the grate.
Right.
So, and then the bottom stops are red and the top stops are black. What's the difference?
So the layout of the instrument, being a player orchestra rather than an organ, is a little weird if you're an organist.
Okay.
All of the stops are available on each of the two manuals.
So, yeah, they're the same on both sides.
And the stops are divided into two expression chambers.
Okay.
So the black stops are in one side, the black stops are in the left box, the red stops are in the right box.
Okay.
Even though they're labeled swell and grate, it's really left and right.
We have two expression shoes, but they're just different chambers, kind of like a theater organ might be.
And to some extent, you've got all of the reeds in one chamber, all of the flutes in the other, which is nominally solo and accompaniment, but not quite how the organ is used. The reed chamber has one flue rank, and the flue chamber has one reed rank, and both chambers get a board, loud and the soft board. Everybody gets a board.
Okay, well, I guess I'd like to hear some of them. Now you're going to play a few little examples. We can play them here from the keyboard too, but
We can do both.
we're going to hear how the player functions. Where would you like to start with this?
Let's start with the clarinet.
Okay. Love the clarinet.
In context.
very nice. Okay. And that's in our reed chamber.
Correct.
And make sure they're all open so we're getting complete expression there. Okay, what else do we have in there on that side?
Okay, well, we also have trumpet.
Okay.
In this case, it's on the console. It's called cornopian.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on.
Oh, it is.
The cornopian is the exception in the flute chamber.
So this is the reed, the one reed that's in the
Flute chamber.
Flute chamber. Yeah, nice big trumpet.
Yep, and in context.
Okay. Back to the other chamber.
Yep, and if that's not enough trumpet sound for you, we have the tuba, which in writing I always put in all caps because it is.
This is a tuba?
Yeah.
That's quite a tuba. Wow. Impressive sound. I've already figured out where we're sitting is not the best place to hear the organ in the house.
In traditional organ, or in
Yeah.
keeping with good organ tradition, it is the worst seat in the house. It's a little bit of a puzzle. The house was designed and built with the organ in mind. The Rodabahs spent a lot of time shopping for and acquiring the organ, and then they put the console here. I cannot explain.
Probably because they didn't expect anyone to actually be playing it that much. Or...
But even if you're playing the paper rolls, it's a terrible spot to sit and listen.
Okay.
So.
All right, continuing on in this chamber.
Okay. We also have a very nice French horn.
Oh, nice Skinner French horn.
Mm-hmm. The legendary patented. Then we have our strings,
Okay.
primarily voix celeste.
And this is going over to the other chamber now,
Right.
with mostly flues. Lovely colors.
Now we can bring in the cello. The cello being the flue in the reed side.
A little bit edgier.
Yeah, a
and
little edgier than the voix celeste.
Okay.
And we do actually have a diapason,
Oh, okay.
believe it or not. At 8 foot, there's no octave, there's no mixture, there's no mutations.
But, well, you need a diapason tone. And
Right.
So this is...
Yeah.
Big round diapason.
Yep.
Very nice. Okay.
We also have Skinner's, I think, justifiably famous English horn.
Okay. It's a lovely sound.
Yeah, they're the prettiest pipes to look at, and I think also among the prettiest pipes to listen to. Now we get into the fun stuff.
Okay.
we have a harp, because every orchestra needs a harp.
All right. Yeah.
It looks like a xylophone, but it does in fact sound like a harp.
Okay.
And the harp lives
Down there.
down there.
Definite need for every orchestra.
Well, it's particularly on the Aeolian organs, it's heavily used.
Yeah.
And very effectively. There's a surprising number, when I was researching the Aeolian organs, so a surprising number of smallish early instruments where you've got the contract and for the organ, and then 6 months to a year later, you've got the contract to add the harp.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they needed to fill in all the extra missing notes there.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing they went over to the neighbors and heard the harp. The harp cost as much as 3 pipe stops.
Really?
Yeah, it was an I wouldn't say extravagant. Well, it was extravagant. It was
organs were extravagant. They were in the business.
Well, particularly on a 7 or 8 or 9 stop organ, you're adding 25% of the cost.
It's true.
And yet 6 months later they had to have it.
All right, what's next?
Well, the other thing every good orchestra has to have is a xylophone.
Well, this is interesting. I haven't seen many, especially home organs with a xylophone, but this one has one.
Yes, and Mr. Skinner put them on many of the residence player organs. I think orchestra bells would have been much more useful.
That's more what I would expect.
Given the repertoire of the roles. The working theory is that because the xylophone was the hot new instrument of the jazz age in the 1920s, it made the organs seem even more modern and hip. That's the wrong word for the 1920s, but then they were.
Okay.
And of course, we have fun with it.
Yeah, it's a xylophone. Okay. How do they use it? Very nice.
It's a great time. And as you heard, we also have cymbal, gong, and bass drum.
Definitely other things in there.
Those are on the toe studs down there.
Okay, so bass drum. Then timpani, is that a roll or?
Yep.
Then we have a cymbal and crash cymbal. All right. And those are available as pedal
Yes.
notes. So,
yep.
if you turn them on here and then you play, say, a pedal note, get that nice sting on top of it. So,
Yeah.
All right.
And of course, both organs and orchestras have to have a good set of chimes. For that delicate ethereal effect.
Lovely chimes, yeah.
together.
Yeah, amazing how all that works together there. Okay, what else do we have in the chambers then? We still have more flute pipes to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, the flutes themselves.
And flutes and reeds. So.
Yeah. We have the Vox.
Yeah, definitely nice Vox sound there. Pretty standard.
We have two flavors of flutes. Pull on the orchestral flute in the red, down low there.
Orchestral flute?
That'll be up here. And then we have the chimney flute.
Okay, so we have orchestral flute and then chimney flute.
And in different boxes so you can play them off each other.
You'd have a solo with accompanying one as the other or something like that. Okay.
The chimney flute is available in all the usual pitches.
So it goes up to 8/4 and 2
Yeah.
and 2 2/3.
Yeah. Player never uses the 2 2/3.
Interesting.
It's just there to impress the neighbors.
Yeah, okay. Might as well if you've got all those notes, all those pipes. And then the orchestral flute is just, is it available at 4 as well?
Yeah, 8 and 4.
Okay, so that's it. And then there are some pedal stops that are in
Yeah, the trombone. The trombone is the only independent
so
pedal
we have
stop.
one big reed up there in the pedal division. Nice big reed for this house.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Outside of that, that's sort of strange arrangement of having all the stops. This looks like a regular organ console. We have couplers, we have pistons, but a big player right here in the middle. So
There were two flavors of player rolls: the fully automatic, which did everything for you, but there was also a semi-automatic that played just the notes and allowed you to conduct the orchestra, as they said in the
pull
advertisement.
stops and change the expression.
Everett wrote about it, and Grace and Everett don't seem to have done much of that based on what's in their library and what we know about the way they use the organ. Others of the owners, J.R. Monroe of Monroe Adding Machines, bought a modest 2-manual Skinner organ of 15 or 16 ranks in 1926 or 27. 2 years later, he had added 6 more ranks and a big 3-manual console with a full moving combination action.
Oh, wow.
And Arthur Hudson Marks writes back and says, "You sure you want to do this? This is going to be expensive." And Monroe writes back, "Yes, I want to do this." And Marks writes back again, "No, really, we consider this to be very extravagant and we do not recommend you do it." It was a fairly high-profile contract, and I think Marks was concerned about buyer's remorse because this was very expensive. And Monroe writes back yet again. Basically, he comes home from a hard day of running the factory, puts on a semi-automatic roll, and conducts the orchestra, and all his problems go away.
He wants all the controls to be able to do that.
And sure enough, when we took that apart to restore it, the combination action was completely worn out. The player mechanism was completely worn out. The semi-automatic rolls were worn to tatters. The fully automatic rolls had a lot of wear on them also, but clearly he was loving those semi-automatic rolls.
That's great.
And we've heard that from a few other either customers or people who had experience with that. Irénée Dupont talks about being 5, 6 years old. His sister was 7 or 8. Mom sat in the middle and ran the roll, and he ran the stops on the right, and his sister ran the stops on the left, and that was their after dinner.
Family activities.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about how the player controls work. We have 4 knobs here that are for the player.
Right.
I can see re-roll. I assume that's for
The obvious.
And then we have automatic and semi-automatic.
Right.
Is that whether or not you're using the stops?
Exactly.
And then we have ventil on the end.
Ventil just turns the wind onto the box.
Okay. All right. And then we have, is this your speed control down here?
Yes, that's your tempo
So in
control.
case you want to speed it up a
Yeah,
little bit.
and that
And
there's
gives you
a
an indicator.
little indicator there.
Okay.
The rolls are rubber stamped with a tempo on them. What bearing that may have had on reality, we're not sure. And how well calibrated any of this stuff was, we're not sure. So for the Dupre roll, there's an ongoing discussion over what tempo he actually played it at. Because if you play it at the rubber stamp tempo, it's much slower than any of his other known recordings.
I see. Interesting.
But in the actual use of these things, it was whatever tempo you wanted.
Of course, yeah. And there's a music rack should you actually want
Yes.
to play some real music up
Yes,
there.
it's
so.
normally there. I took it out so that we could see the roll.
Excellent. Oh, I'm going to see a little bit more about how this player mechanism works.
Okay. Laundry chute conveniently located right in the middle of everything. One of the other design features of the house is this was the servant's bedroom, and so after a hard night of preparing dinner, serving dinner, and washing up, she'd come upstairs, try to get some sleep with the organ roaring away right outside her door. This is the reed chamber. We also have the percussions, the traps, the xylophone, the chimes. This is the pedal trombone. Beyond that, we have the French horn, similar to the trombone or the tuba, but fatter scale, caps on top, much like a trombone or a French horn player with the hand inside the bell. This is the loud reed, the big tuba. Beyond that, we have the chimney flute, so called because it's got this little piercing in the stopper that makes it like a chimney. This is the cello stop. It's a very thin scale that gives it that nice edge like a real cello. This is the flue in the reed chamber. Beyond that, we have the English horn with its distinctive double bell construction on the brass stem. This was a signature stop of the Skinner Organ Company. The next one beyond that is the clarinet, which looks much like a clarinet, an on-tapered cylindrical reed. And then beyond that, up against the wall, is the vox humana, which is a fractional length reed. It gives that kind of choral humming tone. This is the 16-foot octave of the pedal trombone. So these pipes, if they weren't wrapped around on themselves, would be 16 feet long. The chamber in the apartment was taller, but not tall enough, so the pipes were mitered for that. When they were moved here, they had to be made even shorter, which is why we have these scars from the old mitering, and then we had to add the new mitering in. The keyboard behind me we use for tuning because the console is so far away, it's hard to communicate when two people are working. Next up we have the chamber where the relay itself is. This is the player relay. Part of this section here is standard to any Skinner pipe organ. The rest of this is the machinery that translates from the rolls to what the organ needs to know to play the music. This is a pressure regulator reservoir that provides the air to the main organ. There's a blower in here, fills this up. There's a valve. The springs keep the pressure where it needs to be. To get a tremolo effect, much as you would have with a singer, we have this little device over here that shakes the pressure. The house was designed and built around the organ, and in a couple cases, literally. The blower was put in before the roof was put on. It does not fit out this door. It does not fit out that window. If the blower ever dies, it'll come out with a cutting torch. Part of the restoration was to add these windows and also to add some of this stuff so that we could show the world what's actually happening. The organ was originally intended to be buried, invisible. The sound would just magically come floating out. We have a few leftover parts from the restoration we keep for spares. The way the chests and things originally came in and went out for the restoration was through this trap door, which leads into a hallway by the guest bedrooms downstairs. I won't open it now because it just will send a cascade of dirt and dust down. To get a sense of where you are in the house, The organ speaks sideways out into one edge of the roof, and that blasts it down into the front hall. This is the flue side chamber. So all of the flues except the cello are in here, and all of the pipes in here are flues except that one trumpet. And of course we have the harp as well. Against the wall we have the strings, the voix celeste. The thin scale compared to the length of the pipe is what gives you that upper harmonic development that gives the strings that keen, rich sound. The next stop is the diapason, fairly fat scale as diapasons go. The fatter diameter compared to the length gives you a broader, rounder tone. Then we have the flute celeste. This is tapered, so you get something that's partway between the round tone of the diapason and the keen string sound. And then lastly, we have the other trumpet, smaller scale, less powerful. This is the base of the diapason pipes. They go to 8 feet long. Obviously, the chamber is not 8 feet tall. And then this is the other unit flute that goes down into the pedal board. This is the concert flute for the organ. It's a flue stop and a flute. What distinguishes this is the pipe is twice as long as its normal speaking length would be, so that you can get a brighter, edgier tone. So it's if it were a normal speaking length, that's the sound you would expect from a pipe this length. By putting these holes here and increasing the wind pressure, we get more of a natural orchestral flute sound. The lights that you see here, a piano all over the place, were added in the style of, but they did not come from the factory this way. It's done partly for display purposes, but also it helped us really a lot with troubleshooting and diagnosing as we were putting it back together. And even now that it's been going for several years, because it's multiplexed, just like with a computer program, if we have a dead contact or a problem on the console, the symptom can show up in the registration or in any of several parts of the playing. And sometimes it gets doubly interactive, so we have the lights that tell us what it thinks it's doing. Because like any good machine, it will do exactly what we ask it to. A piano has 88 keys, and so the roll for a player piano only needs 88 holes along the tracker bar. You've got one hole for each note, and you can control the entire machine. A pipe organ, on the other hand, has 61 notes on each of 2 or more keyboards, 32 notes in the pedal board. You've got the stages for the expression, and then you've got 50 or more stops to control. That would be an enormously wide piece of paper, and between humidity and stretching and twisting, you'd never be able to get it to track. A number of inventors over the years have tried different ways of accounting for that with varying degrees of success. E.M. Skinner decided that if he couldn't have all the holes he needed in the paper, he just had to teach each hole to do more than one thing. And without intending to, he invented binary multiplexing and demultiplexing. The way he did it is you've got the basic console here, so you've got 2 keyboards and the pedal board. The keyboards are each divided into 3 overlapping sections. So much as you would actually play a keyboard, your hand can be down low, in the middle, or up high. Sometimes you'll have 2 hands on, so you can select 2 of these and get octave coupling. If the roll asks for all 3 at once, that triggers this gizmo, which Joe DeZetta has nicknamed the "Oh no you don't" switch, which forces these off. That triggers this, which then sends the information over to here. These are like your draw knobs, so you can set that and turn it on. This little bag here holds it in place. The next time you go to set your registration, the bag deflates, everything drops down, the new ones rise up, and then you come racing back over here and go back to playing again. The console has a crescendo shoe, so it's a device that allows the organist to turn the stops on in a growing order. And so does this, which will slowly turning the stops on over there. So the information from the console comes in down here on this cable. The first thing we have to decide is, are we hand playing, a live organist, semi-automatic playing, so the machine is playing the notes, but someone is sitting there conducting the orchestra, as they said in the advertising, with the stops and the expression, or full automatic. Having decided that, for a full automatic roll, then we send the information up one level and decide, is it notes or is it registration? If it's registration, we go that way. If it's notes, we come up here, decide whether we're in the low, medium, or high, and then out and off to the organ, and away we go. Hedy Lamarr, who is now credited rightfully with the invention of the technology originally used for remote controlling torpedoes by frequency hopping, then became the basis for Bluetooth and cell phones. The way she made that work practically was through perforated paper technology, which she learned about from her accompanist, who learned about it from recording piano rolls for the Aeolian Company, who were all swimming in this. So there is actually a straight line from this machine to this machine, and it passes through Hedy Lamarr.
Sean, thank you so much for showing me around Wilkinweir here, this beautiful house, beautiful grounds here. It's a wonderful, beautiful day here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I can't wait to explore more of these grounds and see some of the gardens. But thank you also for all the wonderful work you guys did on this organ. I mean, it's great it was preserved here, but you guys have done the best job of keeping it playing.
Well, it was a wonderful opportunity. The Wyncote Foundation provided the funding for it. Brent Duddy preserved this instrument from 1962 until we took over. The staff here have been very supportive. So it's a wonderful situation. The organ is safe, it's happy, it gets used a lot, and it's a beautiful setting.
Yeah, we can tell from the condition of the rolls. We know it was well loved before, and it still gets a lot of use here. So if our viewers want to come hear this instrument, come to an event here, are there regular organ events? Or
they're not yet regularly scheduled. We're just coming out of COVID, of course. But come to the Welkinweir website, welkinweir.org, I think. But a Google search will find it. We can probably put it in the program.
There'll be a description. There'll be a link down in the description below. So yeah, definitely.
And the house is open for tours by appointment.
Okay. Well, again, I learned a lot today, too, about Skinner players, stuff I've never seen one before. This is my first one to really dive into, and it's an amazing machine.
Yes.
And I can't imagine what it was like getting in there and really working on it.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. It's been quite a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Once again, there's some information about Wilkinweir in the description. There's a link down there. And your website, Sean, tell us what that is.
SeanOD.com, SeanOD.com.
There you go. Perfect. There's a link down there as well if you're looking for a fantastic organ technician in the New England, Boston area, although you get around a little bit.
I work all over the country. I work sometimes out of the country. Mostly I work for other organ builders, but we have a good time and get to work on some really fun projects.
Wonderful. So he's your man to call. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to our channel because we do have some more videos coming out from this part of the country. Until those videos are out, though, remember, there's always streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations, OrganLive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. Thank you again, Sean. This was a great day. Thank you for watching. I'm Brent Johnson. I'll talk to you soon.